So the NFL just released their official schedule for the upcoming season. So I just wanted to highlight some of the big games that caught my interest. Starting with the first game of the season, Baltimore Ravens at Kansas City. That's ultimately a rematch of that championship game from last year. Friday, September 6th, you have the Packers at the Eagles. I think this is going to be extremely interesting to see where the Eagles are at. And they're having some really good competition with the Packers. And then on this Saturday, you're going to have the Steelers at Atlanta. Really going to be interested to see where the Falcons are ultimately at with Kirk Cousins. Then you have the Texans at Colts. Really going to be interested to see where the Colts are at with their quarterback with Richardson and see how CJ Stroud starts his second season. And then you have the Cowboys at the Browns. I think the biggest question for Cleveland is how they're going to look if they're sharp. I'm not too sure exactly when Nick Chubb will be back, but you'll probably have Deshaun Watson in there. And then on Monday night, you have New York Jets going to San Francisco to play the 49ers. Hopefully, Aaron Rodgers is able to have a healthy season so we can really see if the Jets are going to have a competitive team. Week 2, we have some interesting games. Again, the first of the Bills and the Dolphins to see where the division will be. On that Sunday in week 2, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Lions, another rematch from the playoffs. And then you have the Bengals and the Chiefs. Going to be interesting to see where Burrow and the Bengals are at against Kansas City. Really two tough games for Kansas City. They could easily start the season going 0-2 and still be a playoff team. And then you have the Bears at Texans. I think this is really interesting ultimately to see where Caleb Williams is at along with the other players the Bears have acquired. On that Monday, again, you have the Atlanta Falcons against the Eagles. Really another great test for the Falcons to see if they are going to be a dominant team next year. In week 3, really the only thing that caught my eye is the Ravens and the Cowboys. Week 5 was the Bills and Texans. And week 7, I think, is really where the heavy hitter is. You're going to have a Super Bowl rematch. Kansas City's going to have to go to San Francisco to Levi Stadium to play the 49ers. They're going to want revenge. And then Monday that week, you have the Ravens against the Buccaneers. I still think that could be a semi-competitive game. Week 10, only thing that caught my attention, you have the Lions and the Texans. Two really good playoff teams didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but I definitely think they're going to be in the equation again. Week 11, you have the Chiefs and the Bills. Really strong rivalry between those two, so it's going to be interesting to see if the Bills can get the better of them. The 49ers at Green Bay against the Packers. Packers are going to want revenge for the divisional round of the playoffs last year. In week 13 for Thanksgiving, you have 3 games, the Bears and the Lions. If you have a pretty good turnout from Caleb Williams, going to be really interesting to see how he can compete with a team as dominant as Detroit. Then you have the Giants at Cowboys. Don't think this is going to be nearly as competitive. And then finishing Thanksgiving off with the Dolphins and the Packers. And then Sunday, another interesting crossover. 49ers traveling to Buffalo to play the Bills. Going to be interesting to see where 2 finalist playoff teams are at this point in the season. Same thing for week 14. You have the Packers going to Detroit to play the Lions. This is a matchup easily could have seen last year in the playoffs. It was something I was curious to see. And then in week 16, only thing that really caught my attention was Houston Texans at Kansas City Chiefs. Another great matchup that we didn't get to see in the playoffs on Christmas. You have 2 games between the Chiefs and the Steelers. And then you have the Ravens and the Texans. This is going to be in Houston. Another playoff rematch here, and I'd actually think this would be much more competitive. And then Monday, you have the rematch between the Lions and the 49ers. This is going to be in San Francisco again. So the Lions are going to want revenge. I think this really will ultimately end in an exciting season. And I think there could be teams that really come out and compete that weren't expected to. And that could make for some really exciting games as well. So feel free to let me know your guys' thoughts on this, which games you're looking forward to, and I'll see you later.